How's it going, everyone? So today I'm going to show you another published scan. This one comes from Linda Raschke's book, Street Smarts. And in that book, she talks about buying in the dip, which is essentially doing an analysis of, like, let's say you're looking at a stock chart from a year out and you see that the general trend is upward. You use that as your backdrop and then you zoom in and you look for these, trends that are showing that the stock price is moving in an uptrend, yet there's a little bit of a dip in the price. So you're looking for those little dips because that's going to give you that advantage, that edge. And so for us to define trend, we're going to use the ADX line, which I've talked about in previous videos. It doesn't measure whether it's a positive trend or a negative trend. What it measures is the strength of the trend. And so we're going to use that as our foundation. And then we're also going to use the exponential moving average to help us find those dips. So to get started, we're going to put our filters in. We have already that the type is stock, and I'm going to leave the simple moving average for the volume because that's not really going to make too much of a difference here. But I do want to add a couple filters. And for those that have seen my previous videos, I do this pretty commonly, where we have the country is the US and we have the closing price is greater than $1. But the first thing that we want to do is we want to set up that ADX line. And just as a general rule of thumb, 30 is pretty strong. So we're going to set up that we want today's ADX line, and the default for that is 14. We want it to be greater than 30. Okay, and similarly, we want to look for a trend in strength, right? So we're going to look at 5 days ago. We're going to look at this ADX line, right? And we want that to be greater than 30, and that's our baseline. And we're going to compare 4 days ago to 5 days ago. And so we want it to be getting stronger. So we want 4 days ago to be stronger than 5 days ago. Perfect. And then once you set that up, the next thing is to find those dips. And the way we're going to go about that is setting up our low. So today's low, we want it to be less than or equal to today's closing price, but the exponential moving average over 20 days for the closing price. Not today's closing price, but today's average of today's 20-day exponential moving average using the closing prices. So that's the first part. And then the second one is we want to look to see that yesterday's low is actually greater than yesterday's average, exponential moving average. Okay, and once we set that up, we can go ahead and run the scan. And we see 26 results. We'll look at barbecue holdings as one example. And you can see there's a dip, but the general trend is upward, right? There's a little bit of a dip here, right? Almost looks like it's been, what is the green line? The 5-day exponential moving average. It looks like it's been dipping up above and below it, right? And so you would want to take a look at your other indicators and see, is this a stock that is actually heading for a downtrend, or is this one of those that are it's generally going to move in an upward direction, but now it could be dipping like similar to what it did here, or it could be dipping like how you see here. But the general trend is that this is going to go up, so you can have a little bit of confidence that this stock price is going to move upward, and that you could be getting this at a discounted rate if you're using your other indicators to show you. And my indicators are not actually telling me to buy this stock. My indicators are telling me that this is a strong trend, right? But this is a strong trend that's moving in this direction where you see the stock price is actually moving down, right? So that's something to consider. Let's look at another example. Let's look at Atlantic American Corporation. And here's one that's kind of been staying at this pace, but you can see that it did have an upswing, and from there it's just kind of stayed around here. So this one's kind of hovering, right? If you were to combine this with another scan, you may see some other characteristics. Let's look at Estee Lauder. same thing. You see the large trend, and then you see this one is actually a pretty strong dip. So these are some things to take into consideration, right? Um, it's dipping now, but once it stops dropping, that's prime time to invest. That's like the ideal time. You always want to catch it at the bottom, right? Because you can see the trend. It drops. It does drop. You see it drop here. You see it drop here. You see the price drop there. You see it drop here, but it always comes back up. It always comes back up, right? And this one was it came back up in February, right? So it may drop, right? We've seen that happen before where it drops back to the previous low point right here. So it may drop down to 280 or so, but once it drops down to 280, it's going to hit higher than 315 the next time. So, or we can predict that it will. We can't really promise that it will, but it's setting it just keeps breaking its ceiling, right? You'll see here it kind of broke it a little bit, stayed roughly around, but it dropped and then it broke it, right? And then it came across. You see it. It never went down. It just became a new plateau, and then it just went up again. So this is a helpful tool, right? It's just a scan, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's really helpful. And here's another example. This one is dropped, came back up, dropped, came back up, dropped, came back up, dropped, came back up, and now it looks like it's dropping. And it's likely based on the pattern, it's likely to come back up. So these are some things you want to take note of: is the trend, right? Is it coming back up, or is the stock done for, right? And also, you want to look at volume as well. Volume is a really good indicator on how popular or how much activity is going on in these stocks, right? So, hope that was helpful. We got a couple more published scans left to go, and then we're going to be looking at some other kinds of scans. But I hope, like I said, let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any comments or suggestions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Take care, everyone.